Hi there, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us this Sunday evening. And probably, as you all know, this session is organized and hosted by GDSC ITR. And you'll have furthermore such sessions coming up from now on. That will be more about how you can get started with or how you could apply or take part in international fellowships or internships across, and how do you actually prepare for such stuff. So do bear with me for a minute and let me clear some ground rules by the time I share my screen. If you have any queries, this whole session would be 45 minutes long. After 45 minutes, if you have any queries, feel free to unmute yourselves and ask your queries, or else within these 45 minutes, if you have queries, feel free to post it in the chat on Google Meet if you're here in the Meet. And if you're on the YouTube live stream, then feel free to hop or write down your messages out there. We'll make sure that we address all your queries. Without any further ado, just give me a confirmation if my slides are visible now. Anyone out here who could just give me a confirmation or a thumbs up?
Yes, you're absolutely visible.
Thank you so much. Well, so beginning with our major topic today is how do you crack international fellowships, specifically a fellowship that Digital Product School offers is something we'll take you in detail of about how to build, how to get into it, how to apply, what is their interview process, what is their selection criteria, and about the stipend they offer, about if you can actually go to Germany and work, or if you can work from your home or from any other part of the globe. So I'll right now take you to another screen. I hope this is also visible, and out here at the screen we will probably take you through a roadmap. So initially we'll talk about how do you exactly search for any international internship. You can go on to your Google browser, click on international internships or fellowships. You'll find a lot of things listed, but along with it you also find something written known as tuition fee. So there are a lot of international internships or fellowship opportunities that you can grab, but the most important thing to notice is opt for or apply for a non-tuition fee based internship or fellowship. The reason I'm telling this is the cost of these fellowships lies somewhere around $10,000. So that's too much for any average Indian family or your parents to pay for you just for your internship. You definitely get a stipend in those internships, but that's far less compared to what you actually pay as a tuition fee. So if you're opting for any internship or fellowship abroad, make sure that you take care of the tuition fee should be zero, because you should not pay for any amount when you're going for an international fellowship or for say, internship. Apart from that, now coming to how do you understand if something is legit or not legit. So as far as my experience goes, there are 2 to 3 very popular fellowships and internships that you could opt for. One being the most popular one being the Digital Product School, that is provided by the German government and one of the biggest universities or like engineering institutions of Germany. They've brought up this whole program where no matter you're an electrical engineer, a mechanical engineer, a CSIT engineer, or probably a BCA student, an MCA student, no matter who you are or what part of the world you are from, there's an internship or a fellowship for you by all these, for all these people by Digital Product School. Second one being the CERN internship or fellowship program, and there are other fellowships by state governments or city governments of various other international organizations. So let's dive into what exactly DPS or Digital Product School is. I'll take you through this website or their website. So, Digital Product School is an initiative which the German government, in collaboration with their biggest university or the state-run university, that's Technical University of Munich, they have brought up a program for startups as well as people who are intending to work as a part-timer or for 3 months with any organization. And when I say organization, the organizations could be the government of Germany directly, or with BMW, with Audi, with SAP, with Meta, as well as with organizations like Aisin or startups like Blyro, Mosaic, Modalic, and a lot more. So what is exactly Digital Product School? At Digital Product School, you can, or anyone across the globe who is within the age of 18 to 60 can apply to any of these. If my screen is visible, you'll have these 6 tracks before you, so you can apply here as a software engineer, um, as an AI/ML engineer. If you're into UI UX designing, you can apply as an interaction designer. If you love product management, you can do or begin with product management track. If you're someone who's a lot into product marketing, you believe you have very strong communication skills and managing and handling teams, go ahead and opt for this as well. Agile coaching is something that students mostly cannot go for. You either have to be a master's or PhD student, or probably someone who is having some prior knowledge in the industry. So you would have these 5 tracks you could apply from. The most or the best part about Digital Product School is, as I mentioned, they don't take into consideration with what is your learning background. I have seen people in Digital Product School without a degree or a university degree also coming, working and earning in, how do I say, earning in lakhs. They are getting 6 figures for what they're working or doing here. Digital Product School is very safe because you do not have to pay them a single penny. If you go through their whole website, you'll find they don't charge anything from you. Rather, if you get selected into Digital Product School, they will pay you 86,000 per month for 3 months. If you go to Germany and work there in their office, or if you're even working from India in your home remotely, they'll willingly pay you 45,000 per month. So that is how Digital Product School actually works. Now, what I'm telling, the stipend is based on this particular or current batch stipend. It increases every year, it increases every quarter as well. So you might get paid even more when you apply. So what happens in Digital Product School is you basically at DPS have 3 openings, like 3 times a year you can apply. There is no first come first serve basis at DPS. So for say, I'll mention which are the 3 times you can apply at DPS. So the first quarter where you can apply is the spring season, that is right now. So every quarter is 3 months. Like your internship or fellowship here would last for 3 particular months. The first one being from Jan to April. It like ends in the first week of April. The second one starts from May, and it lasts as long as like September first week. And then that's the summer phase. And just to tell you all, this is the most crucial part. If there's anyone who's applying in this quarter, please be very sure about certain factors that I'll mention right after this. So the last quarter is the quarter that begins in the month of October and that ends in the month of December. So there might be 1 or 2 months here and there between these gaps, but usually this is the time slot. So the spring, the summer, and the winter internships or the fellowships. Now, why is this DPS program called as a fellowship cum internship? So usually in any fellowship, you go under any particular university for a certain period of time. Their professors teach you, you mingle around with their students and get a chance to learn a lot. And in an internship, you particularly work for a particular organization. At DPS, what happens is you get a chance to learn from professors, from industry experts throughout, as well as side by side work for an industry ready project. For say, when you're working for BMW, or for say, when you're working for SAP, BMW and SAP have their own problem statement that they'll give you. You have to, with a team of 4 or 5 people, together sit and work on this whole problem set and bring out a working model, a solution in 3 particular months. Now, when I mentioned you'll work in a team, so usually DPS has an intake policy. If you're someone who is entering into the software engineering track, every quarter, for say you enter into this quarter, Jan to April quarter, only 20 engineers will be taken. 20 software engineers across the whole globe. You can imagine what is the level of competition. There are about 3,000 to 6,000 applicants from one single country. So from them, they scrutinize, they bake, and they take only 20 people across 27 or 30 different countries altogether. That's a huge amount. Everyone wants to get into DPS because you just don't get a chance to learn or work with amazing organizations you'll never get a chance to intern at, or you just don't get hefty payment. It's also, DPS has a huge craze because there is a high chance that you'll get a PPO from these organizations straight away before your education ends. You'll straight away, you have an option to get a PPO. If you're someone who's doing a bachelor's and you want to do masters, you can reach out to these people because Technical University of Munich is the place, who are actually doing this, like who are helping it. So you can reach out to people, ask people how you can do your studies abroad again later on, get references, get to know a lot of people. And that's what makes most difference. You'll learn a lot, you'll mingle with people from various cultures and domains, and you'll have a lot of opportunities coming to you after DPS. Let me take you through what the exact interview process at DPS looks like. So if you're someone who's applying into any of these cohorts, what would your interview look like? Basically, a normal interview has 3 rounds of selection. So your 3 rounds of selection, the first one would probably be a round where all of you get have your resume selection. So that's the very first round. This is where 90% of people actually get eliminated. If you or your resume makes it to this round, you have 100% probability that you'll last till the end, because their resume screening is very efficient. They are very picky when it comes to resume selections. So make sure whenever you're creating your resume, I'll be giving you tips on what your resume should exactly have, something that my resume had, something that might help you boost up, and what will make you different, so that you straight away in one go, in one shot, click into or get into DPS. So first is the resume round for sure. Then there is this one round that they address as doubt session, something like a doubt session or a Q&A. And this is where they do your personality test or communicational interview. Be rest assured, DPS brings people from across the globe. So even if you're someone who's not very fluent in English, they highly appreciate you. They look at your talent, the work you do, not the way you talk. They need bare minimum English qualification or spoken power so that you can sit together with various teams and work. Because when you're within international teams, there's a high probability that your English pronunciation and their pronunciation of phonetics won't match. So they don't take care about stuff like that. But what they are looking into in this doubt clearing session is your personality. Questions that they would ask you in the sort of sessions would be something close to like, they might ask you, what do you know about DPS? What do you think DPS does? So the first thing I did in the beginning was I told you what DPS does, how DPS is linked. If you make it through the resume round and you reach this doubt clearing session or Q&A session, make sure whenever they ask you for an introduction, give a brief but very appealing introduction. Go through a lot of YouTube videos, how to introduce yourself within 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and make sure you already have an introduction fit in your brain, so that as soon as they take your name, would you like to introduce yourself? Go ahead, introduce who you are, where you're from, what you do. Apart from that, make sure when they ask you, what do you know about digital product school, do not straight away mention you offer us fellowship and internship and that's the reason I'm here. Mention, I want to work for diverse organizations. I want to get to know industry ready skills. I want to contribute to the society. I want to build up something that helps or makes a difference. So stuff like this, you have to analyze. They might not ask you exact same questions they asked me, but it will be very similar. An introduction is a must. And definitely they'll ask you, what do you think about DPS? What do you know about DPS? And stuff like that. So anyone who gets an email that, your resume is shortlisted and we'll call you for another quick call, be prepared with these 2 answers, because this is what your next call would be about. After this session, there are people who get eliminated in this session as well. So after this session is something that happens, or something that's known as an interview round. So what happens in this interview is, they'll ask you to pick any project that you've worked on by far till date. Most probably, if you're someone who is applying for a software engineering track, you need to make sure that you at least have a React and TypeScript project with you to increase the number of chances of your selection. Because they're clearly mentioning they are looking for engineers who know these tools. This is the bare minimum. When I'm telling you React and TypeScript, this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more you need to know, but this is the bare minimum that your resume should also mention in the languages and skills section, as well as the project that you showcase them at that moment should also have this. You might not have TypeScript, it's okay, but at least you should know how basic React works. Of course, if you're someone who works with Angular, well and good. If you're someone who works with Vue, well and good. If you're someone who builds Flask, Django stuff, well and good. But you have to have some major sort of tech stack with you apart from HTML, CSS, and JavaScript if you're entering here. Now you'll ask me, do you only take in web developers? No, they also take in app developers. If you're someone who just comes and tells them, okay, I'm good with Java, I know how to create games and stuff like that, you'll get a +1. You will go into the round. But if you're someone who comes and says, okay, I know Flutter, I know Dart, I know this, I know that, definitely you have a +point compared to the other people. What you need to understand is DPS is not just about how good you are, it's about how good you are from the rest of the crowd. So every time you need to prove that why they should pick you and not the person whom they will interview after you. So when you pick up a project where in the interview session, make sure you are very sensible in picking up that project. They don't ask you many technical questions, but I would suggest go ahead, share your deployed link with them, or share your screen. They give you a chance to share your screen, take them through your entire code that you have written or how it works, take them through your GitHub repository, showing them the code. What this would do is this will give them a feeling that you are the one who's actually coded it, you know how it's done. The second thing that might come as a question during the interview is they'll ask you, how did you build this particular feature of your whole project? So that's how you do it. That's what they ask, and that's how you do it. Apart from that, you'll also get questions about, have you ever converted a Figma prototype into a working project? And if so, how did you do it? So for people out here who do not know what Figma is basically a place where designers build a particular web structure or a UI UX that you as a developer would ideally follow and build or recreate. You take up a design and make it into a working, running model. So if you do not know about Figma, my sincere advice, go ahead and watch one or two tutorials about Figma. If possible, go ahead, go into an hackathon, or build a project with a team where you have a designer who is giving you a design on Figma so that you can relate and understand before going into DPS. At least one prior knowledge is required. And because you're here in this community, if you feel you need a Figma session, you need to understand how from a Figma prototype you actually convert it into a running model, feel free to let us know. We can definitely, if there are a majority of people who want that, we can arrange a session for you for that as well. The next question they'll probably ask you, apart from technical and how to convert things, is if you get stuck while coding, how do you resolve it? Or if you're asked to learn something new, how do you learn it? Be very practical with this answer. This is a game changer for you. Reason being, at DPS, there are 20 engineers, 20 software engineers. I'm leaving the AI ML engineers completely apart because there'll be like 2 to 3 people who will guide and help these set of 40 people altogether, 30 to 40 people. And that's too much. They can't come and spoon feed you. In the very first orientation day of DPS, they'll tell you, we are here to help you, to guide you, not to spoon feed you. So that is why they ask you, how much can you learn by yourself is important. At DPS, they particularly mention you don't need to be a master of everything. Yes, nobody is a master of everything when they enter DPS, but you will become a master of everything at the end of 3 months when you leave DPS. And that's something I assure you, because that's what they have taught me. That's what I'm doing right now. So I can give you a guarantee you learn probably everything you've never learned or you never got a chance to learn in the past 1 or 2 years in just 3 months. So You might say, I go to Stack Overflow, I go to this person, I go to that person, I somehow resolve it. That should be your answer. You somehow resolve it. And if you don't somehow resolve it in practical life, try figuring out, because it's not just about DPS, it's in the long run. Some way or the other, you need to find someone or some community or some friend or some team which is always willing to help you out whenever you get stuck, who have the same tech stack, so that at the end you, within a stipulated time frame, reach your goal. That's very, very important. So make sure you have such a team, you have people like that, because you'll need them in the long run. That's all about how the interview goes. In many cases, when the interviews are a great success, they straight away give you the offer letter. In many cases, if they feel, okay, you might not be the correct pick, they might also, this is not a compulsion, this was not a compulsion for everyone in my batch, I never gave this, they might give you a home task. Say you have 24 or 48 hours within which, or that you use to actually work on, or you use those 48 or 50 hours, whatever you have in hand, to build something that they give you, just to check if you're good or not good at it. This might also happen. I've seen engineers who have, for say, they are blockchain developers, and all they know about web or app is simple HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Nothing more. That to base JavaScript. They don't even know advanced level of JavaScript, like asynchronous functions and stuff like that. So what happens is, for these people, just to test, can you take this time, learn and build and give stuff? And I assure you, please do not reach out to friends and freelancers if you're given such a task, because this is to test yourself. When you enter DPS, you'll get a big fat form that you have to fill, mention, and there are thousands of clauses inside it. What will happen if you cannot complete a task? What will happen if you say, I don't know this, I want to quit this fellowship and program now? There are legal actions. So when you want to enter into DPS, be 100% sure that you can withstand DPS as well. You can withstand that pressure and stress as well. This is all about the 3 rounds that happen at DPS. As I told you, home task is something that was not a mandatory thing for my batch. So I am a part of batch 15. The upcoming batch, that is, as I mentioned, the May to September or May to August batch, this batch, the forms are already over, because February for last week was the last timing. Might be if there's an extension, I'll let you know. But usually this is batch 17, it's already gone. If you are people who are watching me and hearing me out right now, you might apply to the other batch that's coming up, the winter batch, or the batches after it. That's batch 18, 19, 20, and so on. Now you'll ask me, what's the correct time to apply? So DPS is not a first come first serve basis. So as soon as you see that the forms are live, the forms usually go live, they're live throughout the year. Throughout the year, you will find it not just for this batch, but for the other batch as well. For say, right now, it's batch 15 who's doing the fellowship. So batch 16 forms are out, who will enter. Batch 17 forms are there, who might enter as well. So this is how the process goes on. Now, when will all these 3 rounds of interview and everything happen? So if your batch starts, for say, in the month of October or September or October, so if it starts in the month of October, just 1 month prior to it, they will do all these interview processes, selections, etc., etc. Now, what would happen in the meantime? So you are quite likely to fill all your forms if you're entering into this October to December batch. Probably when yes. So if you're going into the October and December batch, you have to fill up the form somewhere around May end and June beginning. That's the deadline. Every time a new format DPS comes up, I'll make sure I post it into all our groups so that you all are updated that, okay, the form is live, this is the deadline, I should apply. You can do that. I'll do that for sure. But you can keep a track of it. For say, it's in the internship or the fellowship starts in the month of May. So probably your entire interview procedure will happen in the month of April, and you have to submit the form by February end. So that's the basic structure of flow, how it happens. Now you'll ask me, what do you do after applying? So they have these ask DPS rounds or sessions like that, where you can ask them anything. Now what usually students ask is, do I need to take a college leave? Yes, you're bound to take 3 months leave from college. I requested for leave. I had to, because you all mostly are ITR students, I had to run through different branches, the placement cell, and everyone. And because I had my end semester exams, which I could not miss. Unfortunately, due to COVID, I could do online classes. So all I used to do was attend classes online. Um, you know, appear for the exam, and right now I'm even on a leave, so I can give my whole time out here. You have to be very strategic. Things favored me, things might not favor you. It differs from person to person and slot to slot. That's the reason the best slot is apply from May to June, July, or August, because this is where you get a summer break from college. Most of the colleges give you a summer break, and that is also the reason why there is high forms. Like in my batch, when I applied, there were 3,000 people from India who had applied, and only 4 Indians or 5 Indians made it into the fellowship. So here you'll have probably for say 8,000 or 9,000 folks applying. There'll be more crowd, more and more crowd. You can't imagine how many people will apply during this time, because universities actually give you a leave of 3 months, or you already have a summer break. You can just take 1 more month or 20 more days extra. These 2 months is something that will cause you trouble. Ask your professors, ask your university. Anything can happen. Things depend, and that's what they'll tell you. As soon as you're selected and the letter comes, within 7 days you have to run around, ask everyone if you're actually going to take, or if your university actually allows you into it. So take a chance, try it out. It might work for you if your university is lenient and if they allow you to do it. Coming up to the most important thing, that's resume. The reason I kept it to the last is, I want to make sure all of you, while submitting your resume to DPS, have a few things listed. You should have a stellar resume, because a stellar resume reduces all these additional rounds. Now, when I told you about this doubt session, Q&A, an interview, and a home task, there are doubt and Q&A sessions before your resume round as well. So do not confuse these two rounds at all. After your resume selection, if you have any doubt and Q&A session, go out there. They ask you questions out there, you have to mention, not before in the any other sort of sessions. Like, they have a lot of doubt clearing sessions. People have queries regarding, okay, I'm from this particular country, how will I live there in Germany, how will I work, which organization you'll put me into, and a lot more. So those are general sessions. After you get a letter that, okay, or an email saying, okay, your resume has been selected, you've made it into the next round, and then if you have this doubt clearing session, keep it in mind, that is a testing session for you. Anything after an acceptance inbox that your resume has been accepted is a round of interview for you. Anything that happens after that, so be very sure about every round after it. Coming to what you should have in your resume, one thing, in the languages section, if you're a web developer, or if you're someone who's applying into the software engineering track as a web developer, please have one framework. React, Angular, Vue, anything. Make sure you have any one of this listed. This is a key point. They want someone who's somewhere midway. You're not an expert, you're not a newbie. So somewhere around it, they want someone. So having this is best. I have seen people with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript make it into DPS, but I've also seen them leave DPS in just 5 to 6 days, or give up DPS. So I don't want you to suffer through it. If you get a chance to enter DPS, make the most out of it. So be prepared with as much as you can before you enter DPS, would be my suggestion for everyone out here. So if you, like, for say, take React as your languages or your skill or framework, there are other things you could also take into consideration. For say, hackathon experience, or community experience. What I mean by hackathon and community experiences, these are some add-ons. If you have a prior hackathon experience, it means you've worked with a team. They know that you can work with a team of 4 or 5 people. That's something that signifies how cross-functional you can be. Community work signifies how you learn from other people. So certain experiences are always an add-ons on your resume. And definitely projects. This is always a must. Experience is not a must. You need not be a previous web developer, or an Android developer, or a Python an AIML developer having some experience with some organization. Not necessary. Experience and DPS is also calculated with the projects that you have. If you have experience, mention it. Feel free to mention it. But if you have projects, yes, feel free to do that as well. Projects is really important. When you mention about projects, you need not mention like all 5 or 10 projects that you have worked on, or every single project that you have worked on, a mini or a big fat project. Even if it's one project that you've built, if it's one project, explain what tech stack you used, how you built it, and what it does. If you have 2-3 projects, do the same. If you have more than 3 to 4 projects, just list the project name and what it does, or what the tech stack uh, or what sort of tech stack was used in it. So that's something that you could do in the project section. Coming to certifications and stuff, not sure how much it calculates, but this is something that definitely calculates because it portrays. This is something that always matters. A hackathon experience will always take you forward. So if you've not had any prior hackathon experience, our server gives you a lot of recommendations. You'll find a lot of people willing to team up. Go ahead, give it a shot. It's a life learning experience. Coming back to this round, apart from a resume or a CV, you also need to submit a cover letter. During my tenure, it was not a must. Submitting a cover letter was not mandatory for me. But after on, I heard that in the recent batches, it's really necessary that you submit a cover letter. So what a cover letter usually looks like, it's something that you have to be honest about. You have to share your own journey, your experience, why you want to get into DPS, who are you, where did you come from, and stuff like that. A cover letter is something that's very personalized. Go through cover letters, and a lot of cover letters in general on YouTube or on Google. Get an idea, make your own story, build your own story, because that's what they look for. They hunt for stories. So if you're someone who actually has something, if you are successful in mentioning how you've grown yourself and become the better version of yourself day by day, that's really important. That's something that would actually matter. So apart from that, these 3 rounds might change. So someone might have an home task first, then a Q&A, and then an interview. Someone might directly have an interview. Someone might, this thing changes, but these are the manual steps, or the steps that I went through. So if there is any change in the procedure, or how they take or how they intake, any changes that come up in the recent batches, as soon as I get to know about it from the team, I'll let you know as well. Coming to another point, it's not a must that you will get a PPO letter from them or a pre-placement directly. In cases it has happened, it might happen, it may happen. It's not a must, like you've got into DPS, you'll get a PPO. There's always a chance of getting a PPO. It's not mandatory that you'll get a PPO. Keep that in mind. The other or the most important thing for today that I'd like to bring forward is, we have done a lot about how you research about internships, when to do the internship, how it comes up, process and stuff. But what's most important is, what next? After you clear this round and after you're actually into DPS, what happens? This is something a lot of people don't say or don't tend to say. This is something I would like to tell you. If you're from India, the first thing you need to make sure is, you have to be very precautious about the whole big fat offer letter or the agreement that you sign on. It's very important you go through every single clause, so that if there is a chance of breach, you know what's going to happen. Now, coming to code bases and stuff, you cannot reuse your code base. Everything here is private. You will get access to that company's portal, data, and everything. You cannot store anything with you. You practically cannot store anything with you. That's a rule. You have to give away everything. So be precautious of whatever you're doing, because these are big fat organizations you cannot win lawsuits against. So be very sure when they are telling you do this, do this. When they are telling you don't do this, don't do this. When it comes to the stipend money, there's an inward remittance that happens. So for certain banks in India, as soon as you get your DPS stipend money, because it's a hefty amount, you have to fill up an inward remittance form. I faced a hell lot of issue getting my money from RBI into my bank account. So if you're someone who manages into DPS, make sure whichever bank you're giving actually allows you or gets you successfully gives you that amount. If you face an inward remittance issue, please remember that to reach out to me. I'll help you out. I've struggled a lot, so I can tell you which exact things you have to do and how to resolve cases. and stuff like that. But yes, be precautious when they ask you, fill in your bank details and stuff like that. You're very sure of what you're doing. If you have any question at any point in DPS, feel free to give them an email. They'll provide you with an email very at the very beginning as soon as you apply at DPS. So feel free to do that. I have been at DPS. So if you have any queries regarding any point of time with your application or anything of that sort, feel free to reach out to me as well. This is all about some external stuff you must be aware of before going into DPS or as soon as you get into DPS. Coming to technically what DPS needs. The first thing I had to do in my first day was, if you have to work with tools like Miro that I'm using right now to make prototypes, designs, and like make prototypes, flowcharts, and a lot of stuff. You need to know how Jira works. You need to know how Figma works. And if there's someone absent in your team, you actually have to start working for that person as well. You cannot complain. So as in the work life, you'll have to work and get a task done. That's what happens here. At DPS, you have very hectic schedules. It starts from somewhere around 1:30 p.m. IST, and it ends somewhere around 9:30, or sometimes even 11. If your team wants you to stay, you have to stay. Coming to leaves at DPS, there are 5 paid leaves that you'll get. Like, they won't deduct money from you. If you take 5 leaves, you can take half days as well. But this is something you need to be very sure of. And in the last month of your internship or fellowship, you cannot take any leaves, or you're advised not to take any leaves, because that is when actual coding works. If you're a software developer, or if you're someone who's entering the AI/ML track, this is specifically for you. For the UI/UX designers and the product managers and other people, probably it's quite more lenient for you. But here, these people are actually building things. Now, what happens if you don't know a particular language? For say, I could not go to Munich, so I could not work with BMW. Okay, another thing I forgot. If you go to Germany, you'll actually work with BMW, SAP, Aisin, Audi, and all those amazing organizations. If you stay in India, you're most likely, or 100% likely, to work with the German government. So if you actually want to work, and because they pay you a lot, so you can afford your whole stay out there. If you ask them, arrange houses, arrange fooding and stuff like that, they will help you, but they will not bear the whole cost. Mind you, you have to bear your flight tickets, your cost of staying. They'll help you with everything. They'll make things as minimum costly as possible, but you have to pay. So try planning and being very strategic at that point. I had other issues as well. We had travel bans during my tenure, so I was bound to work remotely. If you work remotely, I also told you the stipend has a difference, but the workload is 100% safe. So the first day I entered, I got to know that I have to work for the German government, and I have to use blockchain. I'm someone who has no idea what blockchain is. Within 2 days, I had to learn basics of blockchain, basics of Ethereum, how shared document works, what is decentralized applications. You won't believe those 2 weeks or 2 days, how difficult they were for me. It was hella difficult. Then I had only 3 days to learn about DevOps, basics of DevOps, so that I could deploy an application. I very recently got a chance to know that people came across deployment issues. I'm being honest with you. I faced hell. I'll tell you how difficult it was for me. So using DevOps, I had to deploy something that is beyond my imagination, something I don't know. I had to learn. I had to watch videos. There was nobody who could help me because nobody has ever done it. I somehow managed, reached out few of my community friends. Everyone gave me some input or the other, and I'll tell you, nobody will do something for you. You have to keep asking, keep nagging, and somehow you have to find a solution yourself. That's the biggest learning of DPS. They'll make you self-independent. So you go there, you learn, you get a knack of it, and bang on. I had to learn. I did it. And you won't believe, I was the first one who actually deployed and submitted my first task very soon and very easily. So you have to submit tasks every week. You work on a weekly basis. You're given tasks. You'll work in one project, but you'll break it into parts. Like, this week it's a sign up page. Next week it's a login page. Next week it's a dashboard. Next week it's connecting to servers and everything. They'll do a lot of sessions. They'll train you. Before they ask you to learn something, they'll give you training. But I'll assure you that training is enough for an intermediate level person to understand and start working, not for a beginner. So there are a lot of things that you, once you enter DPS, you'll have to learn. You have to have that spirit that, okay, I'll come and I'll learn. That's very important. Apart from that, I think that's all that you'll probably face once you enter DPS. Never give up. DPS might be hard coping up with your school education, because I'll tell you, I had my exams, my end terms, I had my classes, I had everything along with DPS. For me, it was a living hell. I had community work, I had freelancing, I had so much to do, but I still managed. Because if you can bear this, you can bear everything. You're industry ready. And I assure you, working as an intern for a German government, the project that you'll actually work on will change your life. This project can help you crack any sort of fellowship and internship anywhere. Your resume will become something different if you actually enter here. I have seen the difference. That's the reason I'm telling you. You'll be someone different out there if you actually crack it. Because there'll only be 4 people or 5 people from India who make into DPS. As simple as that. And that's why, like from 5,000 or 6,000 people, if there are 4 or 5 people who are getting into it, what is the level of competition and what sort of person you have to be to get into it? You might also feel at times, that person who got selected does not know this, does not know that. How did they select him or how did they select her? Do never question DPS. DPS has this set criteria of selection. Never question it, because I assure you, they actually see how much you can take in. They select every single person keeping a particular project in mind as well. So be very sure and precautious about, you know, uh, why they are doing it, what they are doing. And even if you get a rejection, never get dejected, keep applying. The best time to apply for DPS is probably when you're in your second semester or third semester, the most ideal time. So that, you in your first semester, you get time to prepare. In the second semester, you apply. In the third semester, you do the internship. And in the fourth semester, you're ready to prepare for, pre-placement offers or other MNCs in India where you want to actually do internships. That's the best time. If you don't do it in this time, any time would work. Any time in 4 years would work. That's just my suggestion. That's, if you, I'm someone who structured all my internships and all the applications that I'm filling for every single thing when I was in my first semester, like in the first 1 or 2 weeks. That's something I did. I explored everything. I made a roadmap for 4 years, a basic roadmap that might break in between, but structure is same. So when I have to do what should I keep in target? If you have someone who's working on that, try planning DPS accordingly, because this is like 3 months at DPS is 100% time you have to devote it to DPS. 40 hours a week is a must, or else you'll get a yellow card. It's like a football game. You get cards, a red card, a yellow card, and then accordingly it means something, and you're out of DPS as well. So make sure you never get a chance to, or you're never suffering from it, because I have seen in my team software engineers being kicked out, and then me suffering all alone, being the only software engineer making a whole big fat project. That happens. That might happen with you, and I don't want that to happen with you. I don't want that to happen with anyone, because that's very bad. And probably that would be it. I am a minute, I took like 1 minute more. So exactly probably in 45 or 46 minutes, I covered up whatever I had to share with you. So that was all about that I have to, tell you or share with you. If you have any more questions, you can utilize these 10 to 15 minutes to ask your questions. If you want to connect with me, here is my link tree. You can click here and get all the links you want to. If you're someone who's new to GDSC ITR, you could also click on this link tree and get all the information about GDSC ITR. And lastly, thanks a lot for joining, and I'll probably open the room to your questions. Stop sharing my screen, and I'm sorry, I was on mute. Y'all are free to ask all your questions. And for people who are actually intending to apply for the other tracks, like interaction design, someone who's very good at communications or product management or marketing and stuff like that, if you actually want, you can also reach out to me. I'm not someone who's applied to that track, but I can connect you with people who have actually made it into those tracks. Usually people in the product marketing and communications work with BMW and SAP in making out projects that are not technical. it's more of marketing campaigns and stuff that you plan out and that you do. That's an amazing experience altogether as well. If you're someone who's into product management or interaction or UI UX designing, they'll randomly throw you into any group. But if you're someone who is like, you have an Android experience, if BMW at that moment needs Android, they'll put you there. If Audi needs an Android, sort of an application, they'll put you there. Based on what that company right now needs is what they'll put you into. The AI and ML engineers mostly they work for this. I have never seen AI ML engineers work for BMW. They work for SAP for sure. They've also worked for the government extensively. And the best part is if you're an AI or ML engineer and you actually get a chance to work with DPS, life's set away, because you will get data sets that you've never seen in your life. You'll get data sets of 70 to 80 years. You'll get data sets of God knows what not to go through it. Do you have WhatsApp group regarding these international fellowship? Pratya, we do not have an like specifically dedicated group for this, but we have our servers on Discord. You can always reach out there, or you can ping me on any socials and I'll be happy to help you with any sort of international fellowship apart from DPS if you offer or go for. And make sure at least once, anyone out here who's going for an international internship, you ping me once, because I've seen a lot of people get into scams and frauds. I don't want you all to get into all those stuff. So never pay a single penny from your pocket for any international internship would be my advice. If anyone is asking you, you selected, give me money for this international internship, say or no. If you want to get into international fellowships or internships, you could also reach out to career counseling or coaching centers. There are a lot of them out across India who can help you get an internship. But again, that will be a paid internship or a fellowship where you have to pay for, say, something around $7,000 or $8,000. That's more than what a Pinterest intern gets. Across the globe, Pinterest interns get the highest stipend. So please send the links. Sure, Pratya, give me a second. I'll just drop in my socials as well as, GDSC ITR socials. You can, reach out to people or the team anywhere out here. If you want to ask me anything personally, try reaching me out anywhere except Discord, because I have tons of groups open there. So I might respond late. But if you're reaching me out via LinkedIn or something like that, clear cut, fastest response possible. So any other queries any of you have, anything about applications or anything else that you have in mind, feel free to shoot out your questions. So I hope we do not have questions right now. If you feel like you actually want to ponder more about DPS, I'll also share the DPS link here that you can use. Go through their website, follow them, get to know them. Feel free to do so. It's out there in the chat box as well. You can take a look. If you still have queries, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to help all of you out as much as I can. Perfect. Just a final call. If you all have any more queries or questions in mind that you'd like to ask, feel free to ask. Yep, so we do have a question here. Hi, Ankita, tell me something about the work culture and what if someone fails to complete a task? So that's a very good question. The work culture at DPS is amazing, but highly competitive. For say, at DPS, every Tuesday, a whole group, like all the team members of one particular team, sit together. They decide what will you work on. This is a very crucial stage. You have to tell your teammates when they give you tasks, okay, this is something I can do. These are the other tasks that I have apart from DPS. But if you have an exam, you have to tell them. You have to then and there decide with your team that how much work you can do. You take the work, you work on it. And probably at DPS, you have, you work something, you test something, you deploy something. It's a rigorous process. So you work on it on the, like, from Tuesday onwards, you start working as soon as the designer gives you designs, or you already, if you don't need a designer, you're directly working all by yourself. You start working onto it. You have queries, you reach out to people at DPS, outside DPS, resolve it. By Friday, if you mention and tell your team that, okay, Saturday and Sunday is a week off, this is something I've done this far, this is something I cannot do, and stuff like that, it's perfectly fine. If you tell them everything precisely, If you don't tell them, every Monday there's a product show where the testing is done, final testing, what you have worked in this whole week. That is when questions will come up on you. You fail to do your task once, you report it and you tell people on Friday that I'm not able to do this. They'll help you. But if you don't say anything and you continuously don't complete your tasks, like they leave you for 2 times if you don't complete your task. For the third time, if you don't respond, don't complete tasks, don't come up, you'll start getting those foul cards. And 2 foul cards means you're off DPS, you're off track. They might not pay you for how much you've worked by far. If you've got the first month stipend, after on they might not give you the stipend for the other days that you have worked on. And there's a lot of other clauses that comes after it. That's something I am not aware of because I never got in touch with those people who got the foul cards and went out as well. That happens, but that's not very often. Like people are very honest on their Friday reports. If you're someone in DPS, you cannot do something within some time, feel free to tell them. They'll help you. They'll either give you materials or they'll ask you, okay, take some more time and do it. But be honest with people at DPS. If you're honest, everything works fine. And the best part is, because it's a fellowship come internship, the fellowship sessions that they take are highly recommended. Don't try missing those because your attendance is monitored in those sessions. You don't practically have to fill up a form, but they monitor your attendance. So if you miss more than 4 to 5 sessions, you're obviously off, because it's not just internship, it's fellowship come internship. So yes, I hope that answers your question. And if there's anyone else who wants to add on to to this question or has any other queries, feel free to ask me, because we have 6 more minutes left. That's a very good question. To be honest, it's very difficult, but I figured out an algorithm that I'll tell you all. If you get a new technology, for me, DevOps was entirely new. But what I had to do was, I knew what I had to do. I asked the DPS people, I'm new to it, tell me what I have to do. So they told me, they gave me a roadmap. First, build a Docker, like for your server and client, build a Docker file, then make it into images, do Docker compose, and then bring it to G Cloud and stuff like that. So they give me a sort of roadmap what you have to do. What I did was, I started searching bit by bit, piece by piece. Efficient Google searching is something that can help you do everything in life. I followed tutorials. I had sleepless nights. I asked seniors, I asked juniors, I asked everyone who could help me. Nobody built it for me. I had to learn it. Everybody gave me some suggestions or improvements or helped me resolve it, but I had to do it myself. And once I learned it, I learned it. If you cannot learn it between 2 to 3 days, it's also okay at DPS. You just have to tell them, I was not able to learn it in 2 3 days. Give me this much more time, and I'll make sure I do it. If you say that also, it works. But you have to mention everything at DPS. Okay, I'm doing this. Okay, I'm not doing this. And yes, to answer your question exactly, efficient Google searching, perfect thing. And I have this one big fat 2000 YouTuber list where I know if I have this particular thing to ask someone, I can reach out to this particular YouTuber. I am not sharing that Excel sheet with you, because to create that Excel sheet, there was an organization in India who paid me 45,000. So I'm not going to share that Excel sheet with you. But yes, if you want to know about something, feel free to ask me. I can probably take out YouTubers from that region who could help you, or whose videos could help you resolve it. I can definitely do that. Hope that answers your question, though. And thanks to you, people who do not know here, I had to learn system design and probably overnight. I had to create a C4 model. I had no idea what system design is. Bhaiya helped me out with a lot of resources and stuff. So you see, you have the community helps you, you help people help you. So everyone gave me something or the other in this whole tenure. What is the best way to work in a team? Yes. A team that you get is 100% based on luck. If you're lucky, you have an amazing team. They'll understand you, they'll let you do everything. But the best way to work in a team would be you to analyze and observe every single team member, and to remain silent. In this industry, something that I have understood through all the paid and unpaid internships I have done is, you need to try to understand and observe what your people are doing out there, or what your team is doing. Observe every single person. Try to understand where they are lacking, try to understand where they are going wrong, and take a note of all this in the first 1 or 2 weeks. Try to understand their mentality. After that, figure out times when you actually can say them or tell them, okay, you see, this is something I cannot do, this is something I can do. Find a team buddy out there whom you can always reach out to. Specifically at DPS, that should be your agile coach, because they are the all supremo of the team. Anything and everything you tell them is something they'll take care about. So if you're working at DPS, the best thing would be observe all your teammates. There are situations where you might not get another software engineer or AIML engineer with you. At those situations, everything is on your head, so it's good that you decide your tech stack, you decide your liberty, you decide what you will work on. But there are also situations where you have three ML engineers at one team. Three of them do not have the same idea. Three of them do not have the same tech stack. That's when you call in for your agile coach or someone from the DPS core team and say, look, we have a situation here, help us out. And they'll definitely figure out a way and give you a solution like, okay, this is something you could do. This is the best tech stack you could use. If there are other team members who have not worked with this, there might be something else they could do, because there's always something else you can do. I had to work on designs when my designer suffered from COVID altogether. I did not get an extra pay for it, but I had to work extra hours. So something like that might happen. You might have other situations coming up. Everything could be a possibility when you work as a team. But the best way is, anytime you face any problem or you want to reach out to someone, your agile coach is the perfect person you can go to. They'll help you resolve every single query. And in your team, try to speak out more. This is something I can do, this is something I cannot do. Don't force me with something that I cannot do. I'll try to learn, but I cannot do it. If you give your team false hopes, they will try expecting more from you. Be honest with your team, if not with the core team, or if not with your stakeholder like BMW, Aisin, or SAP. Be honest with yourself. That's very important. Be honest with your team and yourself. That will help you have an amazing team flow, and give you a smooth running for like 2-3 months. There will be situations where your designer is not understanding. You keep on telling him or her, okay, this is something we cannot bring into life, and she or he would be like, no, you have to do it. I worked so hard on it. You have to make it. So those are situations you reach out people and actually resolve those stuff. We are actually running out of time. Is there anyone else who has any other queries, or else we'd call it a wrap or we'll call it a day? I'll wait for probably 30 to 40 more seconds and we can call it a wrap. Moreover, thank you everyone for joining the session. Hope y'all could gain something out of it, and feel free to reach out to me anytime during your process, during your journey at DPS, and even after your journey at DPS. I'd love to be a part of your journey. Thank you everyone for joining. And if you all have any other queries apart from DPS regarding any other interview experience or procedures or something that I have applied for, you can either ask me after this meet or probably over a call or somewhere else, and I'll be happy to help you as well. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. It was great having all of you here. And as far as I can see, we probably do not have any more questions out here. So we'll call it a day or we'll call it a wrap. And I'd ask the GDSC operator to actually end the meet. If you have any more queries, feel free to ping me. I'll be happy to help you out. Have a good evening. Take care. Thanks again for joining, and hope you have a great evening ahead.